Good morning, everybody. Here's the completed abandoned brickyard next to the scrapyard. So let me show you how I did it, and then we'll talk about some of the plans for operations that I'm going to do in Oak Hill as a trial this weekend. So to add weeds onto the fence like this, it's not rocket science, it's kind of fun. So I just take a toothpick, I've got some white glue out here. I just go ahead and, like all around the bottom, I just go ahead and put a bead all across the bottom of the fence. And I'll just do a little short section here. You don't need to see me do this for 5 minutes or something, but this section up here on both sides probably took me less than 10 minutes total. It's not very hard. So once I get that, I just start coming up the side. Now I'm going to make this whole corner like it's all overgrown. I'm going to cover that completely with glue. And I get it up on the barbed wire too, because the vines will just climb up on the barbed wire. So I don't want to cover the whole fence. If I did that, wouldn't they be point me putting the paper on there to make it look like it had the covering? I could just dip the whole thing in there. Matter of fact, I probably wouldn't have used Gold Medal's really nice fence if I was going to do that. And I'll just every once in a while, just sort of random. Just sort of, you don't want it to just look like every quarter inch there's a strand of stuff going up. So once I get it up like that, I just take it up and drizzle stuff on it. This is just ground foam from Woodland Scenics. And I just knock it off. And you tap it a little bit. Loose stuff will come off. It has to do both sides of the fence like that. So when I get this done, I'll put it into place. And now there's going to be gaps along the bottom because the area I'm putting it on isn't dead flat. But I'll fill that up with some other, type of foliage or anything, so you won't be able to see those gaps at the bottom. And I basically do the same thing for the kilns. Now this is the big door of the kiln where they would load load and unload the bricks into, and usually that's like the side facing the loading dock. So it's actually going to be away from me. So this is going to be the side you're going to see more. But I'm going to do the whole kiln, the whole thing. But I just take my stuff, and of course I want to be around the bottom for sure. I know, these things aren't cheap, and you start doing this kind of stuff to it, but that's what makes it look. It's fun. It makes it look, real. So I got a little bit too much glue there. I don't really want that much, but that'd be all right. This is sort of the method I did on the other side of the building. You see, I've got the Elmer's school glue there. And I'll have some vines wrapping up around the top, up over the edge. So I'll need to make sure I get some glue on the bottom. Coming up over the top. I'm not going to make it look like Mayan ruins or something that you're going to see in the Central American jungles. It's not going to be that overgrown, but it's going to be, it's going to be obviously abandoned for a while. So now I'll just drizzle on the stuff. I have to hold it upside down, make sure it gets. If you want to, you can sort of tamp it in with your finger too, At the same time, I don't want to cover like everything. And if you've got too much, just take your toothpick and just sort of knock some of it off. You know, if you think it's too much. A little bit more down there, I think. Here, see? That's probably a little heavier than I'm going to do. I'll probably knock some of that off, but you know, I think it'll look pretty good on the layout. So here's where I'm at the moment. I've got the fence in place, glued in, covered with the vines, some uneven turf. I had some gaps at the bottom. I disguised it with the brush, and I did the same all the way around on the other side too, which you're never going to see that anyhow, except maybe in a video. And I'll have stuff coming on down the side of the hill. Put some cinders in there because, after all, they did used to have to get to these kilns, so I would unload bricks, so it's not just going to be like dirt. And I sort of sprinkled cinders around. I've got some brush in there now. I'm letting this dry. And I'm going to come in. The kilns, they're just all sitting there. I'm going to put tall static grass in here, scattered around through this and everything. So it's just going to be a real brushy, overgrown area, and I'll put static grass back here too. I'm not going to cover, it'll be patchy coming up through the cinders, but it's not going to be like 100% covering the cinders anyhow. So that's where I'm at right now. So I will show you that when I'm done. Been cleaning up some to get ready for the operating session. So, but again, I intend to get this part done before I do that. I think the best way to show you everything is just with the shaky drone. So no secrets here, nothing unusual, special techniques. Basically, I made a bunch of super trees last night, but I just made them very small. I just used the tips and things, you know, almost like the scrap, because you can see how small they are. But I just followed the usual super tree method. I've got the vines and everything all over the kilns, and put some tall, like medium height static grass, I think 6 millimeters mixed with 2 millimeters in there, different colors. You can see the fence through it with the vines on it. I knocked some of the stuff off. Thought it was a little heavy, so I knocked some off. And I said it'd be a good habitat for, you know, groundhogs, rabbits, you know, things like that. Maybe a fox or so. Eventually, the scrapyard will need the room, and they'll tear those down. They'll take over that area, clean it all up. A friend of mine, I'm not done with the scrapyard. By the way, I do want to add a truck, maybe coming up here like an old farm truck or something, where farmers coming in delivering like a truck full of junk, you know, sell some scrap. Definitely want to add a truck, you know, since it's an older truck, 50s or 60s, something like that. These cranes were sort of notorious for leaking, and probably the scrapyard would have had would have been worn out before the scrapyard got it, in all probability. So I weathered it up a little bit, but not probably as much as I could have. But had a friend of mine suggest that, hey, you know, oil stains would be appropriate, and I definitely agree. As that thing moved around, it's probably leaking all over the place. The really dark spot is where they usually park it. You know, that's why I left it really dark right there. But then you see a trail where they're sort of move around through the scrapyard. So to talk about the operations, I'm going to go ahead and put it on the tripod and talk about how I'm going to operate this weekend. So I'm going to run my first operating session in Oak Hill this weekend. Hope to post it. We'll see how it goes. I am not going to set it up in JMRI yet, because I'm using the same cars for both layouts. And I'm still working on Oak Hill, so I don't want it to have a car delivered to Oak Hill, and this basically it's going to be out of the rotation for Chillicothe, because JMRI thinks it's sitting in Oak Hill. So I made this list. That's Lance Mendheim has something like this in his book about how to operate, modern switching layout. And basically, I've got Cedar Heights Clay, Knock and Sons, and Harbison Walker, which are on the staging yard, not really modeled industries. Davis Fire Brick and Cherokee Scrap on here. So I'm just going to fill this in manually, and I'm just going to make it up. I'm going to have each industry probably, set out a couple cars, pick up a couple cars, something like that, see how it works. Of course, JMRI will do it more random. When I do put it in JMRI, I'll probably have to reset my car count, because otherwise all these cars in Oak Hill that I haven't been using, I'll have car counts of 0. And so it will just like run the heck out of those before it ever gets any other cars. So I'll probably reset my car count to 0. So I think this is probably the best angle to show you. So let me just sort of talk you through it without boring you to death here. So let me zoom in a little bit. Okay. So the train will be entering basically from Chillicothe, and I'll film that just the heck of it, over the creek, Grassy Fork, and come into Oak Hill this way. I have an engine, maybe, 6, 7, 8 cars, and a caboose. So when he comes into the Oak Hill, first thing it's going to do is it's going to switch Cedar Heights Clay. Now, Cedar Heights Clay is a trailing point switch. So there's no runaround required. So I can switch it out no problem. Cherokee Scrap and Davis Fire Brick are facing point switches, and I have to do a runaround. So I'm going to do them on the way back. So I will leave those cars on the passing siding. And what I'll do is I'll just take the cars that I'm going to take on south to the staging yard. Probably just be a couple cars, 2, 3 cars, 3 at the most. Switch out those industries. Just be a manual fiddle yard. I'll just move the camera around so I'll show you. Okay. So I actually have the fiddle yard sitting in place right now, just to show you how it all ties in. There's the Davis Fire Brick. So when I come around here, I'll pull the train down to one of these tracks. I'll put the caboose at the other end, and I'll have like a box with a couple cars on it that I'm picking up, and I'll take these cars off and put in a box, and the train will then head back to Oak Hill. Now it's going north. Okay. So after it, when it comes back, the work isn't done, because it still needs to switch Davis Fire Brick and Cherokee Scrap. So when it comes back, the engine's already on the right end of the train. They'll come to the end of the passing siding, pick up the cars that it needs to switch out here at the Cherokee Scrap and for Davis Fire Brick, which have been a couple cars apiece. And then we'll build the train up. We'll head back through Chillicothe. Probably can't do that all in one session. It'd be really long. And again, this is trial and error. I want to see how it's going to work. Maybe 8 cars is too big of a train. I don't know. We'll find out. When I go into JMRI, I can set that up. I can set a maximum train length, and that'll take care of it for me. So anyhow, that's the plan for this weekend. I may, based on how things are going, I may operate Oak Hill for the next few weeks. There's a couple things I want to do in Chillicothe that would give me a chance to work in Chillicothe and still be able to shoot videos and film in Oak Hill. But I hate to film on unscenic areas too. There's still a lot of unballasted track. There's buildings not built. So, if you start running trains, sometimes you might lose your motivation to get stuff done. There's still a ton of work to do in Oak Hill. So that's it. I'll post this Friday morning. It's Thursday night. I always say good morning because I'm going to post it in the morning before I go to work. That's a good time to upload videos. Not many people online, and it uploads pretty fast. And give you something to work, to watch when you eat breakfast or take a break or whatever. If everything works out right, I will be able to run at least the first part of the operating session Friday evening and post it Saturday morning. If not, look for it on Sunday morning. So I hope everybody has a good Friday, TGIF, and everybody stay safe.